Hey guys, this week we will be talking about 22 trainer pistols and reviewing the FN 502 tactical pistol. But first, let's catch up just a little bit. How's everyone doing this week? Enjoying spring? I'm sure it's got to be spring somewhere, right? Been down around 10 below at night here lately, but looking at the weather report, I think it's gonna break real soon and warm up, and then hopefully we'll be on the way to warmer weather. I had another failure this week with a plastic holster. And it just goes to prove why I don't usually like or recommend them. I was getting ready to head into town with the wife, and I locked up the dogs to we put them in crates when we go into town. Don't want them tearing up the house. And I was locking the box of the one in the back, and I was bending down to lock the box, and the clip on my holster caught on the filing cabinet that's right there, and I had my Glock 19 on the edge of the filing cabinet. It just snapped that clip right off of the holster. Luckily, this holster has double belt loops, and although not ideal, it probably would have stayed in place okay with just the one belt clip, since it's an inside the waistband holster. But nonetheless, I'm back to packing my Ruger Lightweight Commander until I get a new holster for the Glock. And I should have brought the holster out here to show you guys on YouTube, but I didn't. It's in the house. I'm not going to go back and get it. With this latest failure of plastic, I got to thinking about it, and I'm pretty sure I have broken every single Kydex holster I've ever owned. Mostly the belt loops, but I did have one once where the actual Kydex gave out right where the screws attach the clip to the holster. And this was about 4 years ago. It was the first one I ever bought, and I had just gotten a new one. The Glock 48 came out. I'd just gotten one. And I grabbed the generic inside the waistband Kydex holster on eBay. They were all the rage at the time. They still are. And I hated appendix carry, and I still do. But at the time, I was skinnier and going to the gym every night after work and all that. And this, like I said, it was the height of right when this really started to become real popular, appendix carry and Kydex. And I picked it up, and that's the way I was carrying appendix. And I hated it. But about 3 weeks into having that holster, we were at Winco in Nampa, Idaho, and I went to return the cart. I don't remember why, but I was moving kind of quick. I took a little kind of a jog back to the car, which is uncommon for me. I don't move fast. I'm a big guy, fall. I don't like moving fast. For one, I don't like moving fast, and for two, I don't like hitting the ground when I trip when I move fast. Besides being tall, I'm also kind of a klutz. So I don't generally move fast. But for this, whatever reason, this time I was. And that Kydex holster, it separated itself from the belt clip, and it came up out of my pants, and the holster and the Glock went skidding across the parking lot. And I've had a couple of other Kydex holsters since then, and while most of them are pretty good quality, for the actual Kydex part, and I've never actually had any issues with the holster itself, the plastic belt clips are a weak point. And remember, stuff gets brittle in the cold up here. And when it gets cold, it gets brittle. And it doesn't matter what it is. And the Kydex outside the waistband holster that I had for my Springfield XDM, it actually has strips of leather. I took the plastic belt loops off, and I put strips of leather on there in place of the belt loops. And they worked pretty good. But, again, that's not ideal. And I gotta say that one did work pretty good. That holster, I actually liked that holster fairly well for what it was. It worked out pretty good with those leather strips on there, and that's the way I feel that the strips on the Kydex holster, the Colt, like I said, I've never had, other than that one real cheap eBay special that was the Kydex on that thing was paper thin. You get what you pay for with any kind of holster, but with Kydex, really, you get what you pay for. Other than that one, I've never had issues with the actual Kydex part breaking. But yeah, anyway, I'm not sure what route I'm going to go with the holster for this Glock now. Probably leather from Simply Rugged, but I might try to find something a bit cheaper since money is tight right now. But I'm going back to work soon, and I do know from experience that you get what you pay for when it comes to leather. Right now, I'm eyeballing the Galco Summer Comfort a little bit, but we'll just have to see what I end up with. I actually don't mind. I didn't mind this Kydex inside the waistband holster, and I may just end up trying to find some steel belt clips that will fit on it instead of the plastic ones. I'm sure the guy who made the holster would replace the clips for free, but I don't want a repeat of the problem. If it's been a problem once, it's probably going to be a problem again. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. I'm not going to do that. It's broke once. I'm going to do something different. Especially with something like carrying a gun, you don't want your holster breaking and going. Especially, it just it's just bad all the way around. You don't want your holster breaking. Get good quality gear if you're going to carry a gun. I can't stress that enough. Even if you carry a Taurus, get a good holster for it. This Kydex holster for this Glock broke just around the house. I'm not even being hard on it right now. I'm not crawling around down in trenches, putting in culverts or digging or getting in and out of equipment all day or crawling around under trucks, greasing drive shafts and that kind of stuff. I was just putting the dog in the crate and I bumped into the filing cabinet. So, have good gear. Other than that, been kind of slow this week. I finished up the job out there at the landfill, so I've just been kind of hanging around waiting for the weather to get nicer. Pretty nice out today. It's been cold the last couple of days. I looked out just before I came out here, and the thermometer says it's about 45 degrees outside, kind of overcast. I don't know that I really believe it because you can, like, sitting here in the camper, I can still feel my breath. I've just got a pair of insulated slippers on. My feet are getting a little cold out here, but it's supposed to start warming up. We're seeing some nicer weather. But yeah, I've just been hanging around waiting for the weather to get nice. I need to start getting this camper ready to go for work this summer. But the weather has just been chilly enough that I don't really want to do anything outside unless I have to. Contrary to what some people might think, I actually am quite lazy. And I'm perfectly happy to sit inside next to the wood stove and rewatch Justified, which I've been doing. That is a great show, by the way. One of my favorites. About halfway through season 5 again. So I should have time to finish up season 6 before I head to work. Great show. A while back, one of you guys with the name of John sent me an email telling me to check out the American Classic cigar from Alec Bradley. And I have a 5-pack of them sitting in my cart on Cigars International, but I haven't made an order recently. But my last trip to Fairbanks, I stopped by the only real cigar shop there, and he had both the American Classic and the American Sun Grown. And I grabbed one of each. So this is the American Classic. The American Classic is a long filler cigar blended to replicate American cigars from the early 1900s or so. It has a Honduran-grown Connecticut wrapper and a Honduran and Nicaraguan long filler. The local shop price on both of these sticks was $13 a pop. But Alaska had the high tobacco tax, not to mention shipping, and also the only cigar shop within about 8 hours of here. And I like to support the local shop the same as I support my local gun shops. They got to make a living too. But I definitely can't afford to smoke as much as I would like to if I were to buy cigars from him all the time. Online, on Cigars International, this stick runs $150.99 for a box of 24, which comes to $6.29 a stick. And I looked on CigarDaily.com, which is, if you guys have never been on Cigars Daily, they're kind of like an online brick and mortar. They sell singles. You can get boxes from that kind of stuff. They're not really a bulk seller though. They deal a lot more as you go online, and they'll you can buy a single or a 2-pack or a 5-pack or whatever you want. A lot more like a brick and mortar. Nice guy that owns the place. And it's a great way to check out cigars for me, especially like if I want to just get one to try something, which I don't normally do. Normally I'll get a 5-pack. But his price on this cigar was like $6.99. And he does a really nice job. Whenever you buy cigars from him, he sends them with Bodiva packs and all that kind of stuff. So it's a pretty good place to check out if you're just wanting to grab a couple of cigars to sample. Most Cigars International has 5-packs of, and that's generally if I want to try something, I'll get a 5-pack. So this is my very first time having this cigar. Like I said, generally I'll get a 5-pack of a new cigar and I'll smoke all of those before I decide if I like a stick or not. This stick, it's a Toro 6x50. So obviously I'm smoking it all already, but the cold draw when I went to go light this cigar, it didn't have much to offer for me. Maybe a hint of nuttiness, but not much. I mentioned last week with the Chillin' Moose cigar that I got some bitterness with that first bit of the cigar, and I get that with this cigar too. And it's one of the reasons I'm not the biggest fan of Connecticut wrapper cigars. I'm not sure if it's a signature of the Connecticut wrapper or if the wrapper is just a little bit more delicate and I'm over toasting it when I light. And I know I lit this one today with a Zippo, which I know you're not supposed to do, but again, it's what's handy. And I tend to, it's a little more gentle flame anyway, so I don't think I'm really over toasting them. I'm holding it out away from the flame and that kind of stuff. But I just get this quite often with Connecticut wrappers, that little bit of bitterness. I'm not a huge fan of that. Once it's going, it's a really, I'd put this as a mild cigar. Online, they rate it as a mild medium body. This is really mild for me. It's got really good smoke output, which I like in a cigar. And while it is pretty mild, it does have like a hint of peppery on the retrohale. And that same nuttiness that I found on the cold draw. It's almost like I can recognize the kind of nut. Like it's almost like an eggcorn, maybe. Like an eggcorn nuttiness. But it's not bad. It's good. It's good. I hate to put a rating on a cigar without smoking at least 3 of them. But so far, I would give this one about a 5 or a 6. It's really a smooth cigar. Now that I've been smoking it, I got an inch and a half smoked off of it or so. It's a really smooth cigar with good smoke output. It's got a nice even burn. It's not doing anything weird on the burn, which is generally the case. Generally, long filler cigars will burn a little more even than a short filler, in my opinion, in my experience. But it's a little bit on the mild side for me. I would definitely smoke it again, but it's not something I would buy a box of. Now, before we move on, I need to hear from you cigar guys. I've gotten 10 times as much comment on this segment of the show saying that you guys enjoy the cigar part versus the 2 people I've had say that I should cut it out of the show. However, I need you guys to tell me what you want. Do you like how I'm trying to do a different cigar each week and give a short description of the cigar and my thoughts? Or would you rather I just keep it short, like I'm smoking this cigar today and then move on? Or do I need to be putting more information in this segment? Am I missing a critical part of, what I'm talking about when I'm talking about these cigars? Let me know what you think, what you want to hear with the cigar segment. Send me an email or send me a message on social media, or you can send me an email at dansgunstuff@gmail.com. Dang, military's out there flying a jet over. That's going to show up on the... I'll try to edit that out. Shouldn't be too bad. Alrighty, guys, let's move on. Today's topic kind of came to me last minute while I was working on an article for a pistol that I've had for a while now. And this episode will be a bit different, with the gear review being a bit of an extension of the main topic and a gear review. And for whatever reason, I didn't bring the pistol out here with me. So we're just going to have to talk about it. I can't really show you guys on YouTube. I'll probably at some point put an actual gun review of this pistol up on the YouTube channel, so you'll just have to wait for that. Anyway, it seems like the last few years, 22 training pistols have been hitting the market more, and we're seeing just about everybody bring out a 22 version of their full-size companions. Glock brought out the G44, FN brought out the 502, SIG brought out the 322, and there were some others as well. I think Taurus, unfortunately, is kind of the one that started this trend when they released the TX22, but the idea of 22 pistol trainer is not new. Now, this is not to say that 22 pistols like the Ruger Mark series, or the Mark 1, 2, 3, 4, can't be used as training pistols, but it is nice to train with a pistol that fits the hand the same, has a similar weight, and the same controls as the centerfire counterpart. While the last couple of years seems to be the birth of this concept, I think the first would have actually been the Colt Ace pistols. And the Colt Ace, it was introduced all the way back in 1931. The Colt Service Ace was designed to be a cheaper and more recoil-friendly, while still maintaining the 1911 feel and controls. The barrel on these actually had like a floating chamber on a pivot that was to amplify the recoil of the little 22. And a lot of people say that this was to amplify the recoil of the 22 so it would mimic a 45, and that's not actually the case. It was it had to amplify the recoil of the 22 in order to run that heavy slide on the 1911. I believe the Navy was the only branch to ever use them as training pistols, but they did see some sporting use as well. And there have been plenty of other 22 conversions for the 1911 from then all the way up until today. You can still buy 22 long rifle slides and conversion kits to put on your 1911 frame, or you can buy designated 22 caliber 1911s. While shooting 22 is great fun, most 22 pistols function different from a gun that you would carry. Take the Ruger Mark I and Mark II pistols, for example. While the Colt Woodsman's at least had a half slide, like in the modern we see like the Browning Buckmarks and the what's the other one? The Smith & Wesson Victory pistol, and they got like that half slide, and it can be gripped and used. You can use that grip and rip, similar to how you would use a pistol with a full length slide. The Ruger pistols have more of a bolt, and it has to be manipulated a little bit different. And as well as the heel of the butt where the magazine releases on those guns makes reloads a little bit more of a challenge. While the pistol can be used to teach and learn the fundamentals of shooting, it's not really going to replicate the function of a pistol somebody would normally carry. Of course, ammo was cheaper for a long time, and I think that really the reason we were seeing more of these 22 caliber copies of popular carry pistols is because of ammo prices. It wasn't that long ago that 9mm ammo was $6.99 a box, $7.99 a box, and now it's close to $20. With something like the Glock 44, a guy can train with a pistol that feels and functions the same as a Glock 19. It's going to be a little bit lighter because of the. I think the Glock 19 actually has the 44. I think it actually has a plastic slide. In the case of the FN22, it's an aluminum slide. Don't quote me on that on the Glock. I'd have to look that up, but I think it has a plastic slide. So it's going to be lighter, but it's going to have the same. Overall, it's generally the same kind of feel. It's also going to have the same controls, and he can shoot it at a much cheaper cost. 22 ammo is you can still get 22 ammo for 6 or 7 cents a round, versus the 40 cents a round for 9mm. And actually, I think like on the Glock, for the most part, you can use like the same aftermarket triggers and stuff in the Glock 44, so a guy could really set it up nearly identical for training with. And I think it's important to shoot and train with the gun that you actually carry, but shooting a 22 version of that gun is definitely better than not shooting at all. And another great thing about the 22 pistols is there's a lot of guys you guys can't shoot in your backyard. It's just, it's an unfortunate fact of life. Where I'm at, I can shoot pretty much whatever I want. But there's a lot of you guys that could probably get away with shooting a 22 in the backyard, but not a 9mm or a 45. Or 357 or whatever. On let's just say a revolver side of it, we're talking about semi-autos here, and I didn't really write this into the script, but with revolvers, generally you can get J and K frames in 22s also to train with, versus if you're carrying a 38 special or a 357, or like the Ruger LCR, or like the LCP2 is now available in 22 long rifle. So there's other than just I'm talking more full-size guns, but there's been a lot of other guns hitting the market lately that are replicas of a centerfire counterpart that you could train with. I would never carry a 22. There's plenty of you guys that do. That's on you. That's fine. I've had way too many misfires in my life with 22 ammo to ever trust carrying a 22. Not to mention, it's definitely light on the side for self-defense, in my opinion. There's no way I would carry a 22. There's no way I would recommend carrying a 22. But as I said, training with a 22 version of whatever gun you're shooting, or even just a 22 in general, Ruger Mark 1, it's better than not shooting at all. And like I said, a lot of you guys can get away with shooting those in your backyard. So there's definitely some advantages to having a 22 training pistol. And I should probably make a note here that I don't really train that much per se. I shoot a lot, and I don't really run that many drills or stuff like that. I believe it's a good thing to do. I should do it more. I'm not saying that I'm just a better shot than everybody else, and I don't need to train. I should run malfunction drills and stuff like that. But I just shoot a lot. I live in Alaska. I've never even taken any kind of class or whatsoever. And again, I think those are good things to do. We can all be better shooters. I'm a fairly accurate shooter, but I'm not that fast, and I'm not good at movement while shooting. If you don't believe me, go back on my YouTube channel and watch some of my older match videos on YouTube, and you'll see. I mean, there's one where I trip and fall on my face while trying to move around a barricade. So it's everything I know about shooting right now, I have taught myself. Training is a good thing. You just go out there. A lot of what I do, training wise, would be, like I'm out cutting firewood and I see a stump, and I'll just, I got this rifle or this pistol. Let's see how many shots I can put on that stump as fast as I can, or pull from the holster and shoot that stump, or with a rifle, just pull it out, pull it up off the sling and shoot it. That kind of stuff. I mean, it's still training, but it's not like designated. Let's sit down and run a bill drill. Let's sit down and do snapshot drills with a rifle. Let's run malfunction drills or reload drills or any of that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff is good to do. And the 22 is a great place to learn how to do that stuff if it mimics your carry gun. Now, for me, I don't think I'm going to go out and buy a Glock 44 just because I'm carrying a Glock 17 or a 19 now. The FN 502 I have is a very similar size and feel, but I can also afford to shoot 9mm pretty much as I want right now. It's not, it's more expensive than shooting a 22, but I make pretty decent money, and that's the gun I'm actually gonna carry, or 45 or whatever I'm actually carrying is what I'm going to shoot the most because of the way I shoot. Like I said, I'm out chopping firewood, and I'm gonna put a round in that stump, or I'm out hiking through the woods and there's a rock out there. Let's put some rounds on that rock. So I don't really shoot the 22 trainer pistols that much myself. The FN 502 I have shot quite a bit, and it's a great pistol. But I think the 22 trainer pistols we're seeing them become more popular, and I think it's a great thing for newer and especially recoil and noise-shy shooters. And if I was training a new shooter, I would go this route versus a more traditional 22 pistol like the Rugers or whatever, Browning Buckmark or whatever. Actually, one of the reasons I bought the FN was to get Amanda more familiar with auto-loading pistols. She's not a real big fan of auto-loading pistols, and most of my auto-loadings are 45 or 10mm, even 9mm. She's not a big fan of those. Or something like this 1911 Commander I'm carrying right now. I've got a 24-pound recoil spring in this. She's not physically strong enough to rack the slide on that right now. With training, yeah, she could, but it's not something that she has trained to do. And yeah, the 24-pound recoil spring in that gun is significant. But unfortunately, with her asthma, as bad as it has been the last couple of years, we haven't gotten to go to the range very much together. I don't think she's even fired the 642 Ladysmith I got her for Christmas last year. Hopefully this will be getting better soon. She's doing a lot better right now than she had been just a few months ago. And we have more appointments with specialists coming up to help figure out, the best moves to keep her lungs happy. But right now she just hasn't gotten to shoot as much as I'd like to see her shoot. And she doesn't really enjoy shooting that much anyway. She's a decent shot. She's really good with a little snubby revolver, actually. Surprisingly good with a snubby revolver. And that's what she carries. And that's why she carries that. She's good with it. She's confident with that pistol platform. But I would like to see her get out to the range a little bit more. But right now, when she can't go outside for more than 10 minutes without having to use an inhaler every 2 minutes, it's not, or if she just physically can't breathe, it's not something that she can go outside and do. So, like I said, I bought the FN 22 with the purpose of getting her a little more familiar with autoloaders, but it's just unfortunate with her medical issues right now. It hasn't been able to work out. But hopefully we're on the mend. We kind of got we know what direction we need to go somewhat now. We still have some more appointments, but she's getting better. Okay, let's talk about my FN 502 Tactical a little bit here. And actually, I'm going to pause the show. I'm going to run inside, grab the pistol. I will be right back. I've never tried pausing mid-recording. Let's see how this goes. Okay, we're back. Let's see how that, hopefully that all worked out, trying to pause it and splicing it back together. We'll see how that works out. I've never done that before. Normally, I try to just record straight through. Okay, anyway. Here's the FN22. We'll talk about that. As a hand loader, I had pretty much given up on shooting 22s for a few years during the ammo shortages. I grew up right at the tail end of the $10 a brick 22 ammo days, and I wasn't about to pay $60 a brick for 22 ammo when I could load and shoot 9mm for not much more than that. Of course, I was down in the States, Idaho, Montana, but the point stands. So the 22s I had got sold off. I got sold off from the collection, and pretty soon I was down to one. And actually, I was down to none for a while, and I was fine with that. Once I bought back my Zastava, I bought back once we moved back up here to Alaska. I could keep it. I could buy enough CCI mini mag to keep that rifle, the bolt action rifle fed, and I didn't. And I'd shoot the other rifles and handguns with hand loads. Like I said, I didn't actually have any 22s for a while until I bought that Zastava back from the fellow I sold it to as a teenager when we moved back up here to Alaska. There was a while there I went from no 22s. I mean, I had a 10-22 for a while when I was shooting Steel Challenge and a 22 pistol. But once we moved back up here, I sold those actually before we left. Didn't bring them up here with me, and then I didn't have a 22 again until I bought back that Zastava. So about 2 years ago, I was in a store and I saw they had a display of bricks of the Aguila 36 grain hollow point ammo on the shelf, and they had it priced at like $14 a brick. And I took one up front to verify the price, and this girl, blue-haired, nose ring adored, behind the counter, looked like she had no desire to be there. She told me very uncaringly that the ammo did ring up at that price. And when I asked how much I could buy, she rolled her eyes and responded, "Whatever." And it was a Friday. It was the middle of summer work season, and I forked over the cash, and I came out of the store with just over 20,000 rounds of 22 ammo. I bought them out. And now that was enough 22 ammo to last me a lifetime with the amount of 22 ammo I was shooting at the time with the bolt action. And I would have ammo left over at the end of that. I don't shoot that rifle that much, maybe a box or two a year. It's a good rifle. I just, I don't shoot that particular rifle. I mean, I don't shoot bolt action 22s that much unless I'm going out grouse hunting or squirrel hunting. The scope on that rifle doesn't really tend to get bumped out, so I don't shoot it that much. Great gun. Love that gun. And it's my test platform for testing 22 ammo because it's so accurate, but I just don't shoot it that. At the time, I wasn't shooting it that much. I probably put 500 rounds through it this winter. Testing when I was doing the episode a couple weeks ago with the modified 22 rounds and whatever else. So anyway, I started the hunt for a decent priced 22 pistol, and it wasn't long before I came across the FN 502 Tactical on a shop shelf. And I don't remember what I paid for it. It was somewhere in the area of like 300. I think it was like $329. And this was very soon after they hit the market. As a matter of fact, I think that the guy was putting it on the shelf at that particular store the day I went in and saw it and bought it. Current MSRP on this pistol is $559, but I'm sure they can be found a little bit cheaper in store. Now, this was a little bit of an odd purchase for me, and impulse buy, kind of, at that. Wasn't really what I was looking for. I'm generally a little more old school in my taste in guns, and I think up until now, I think all my auto-loading pistols have been some variant of the Ruger Mark series, and a couple of single sixes in the mix, and that's kind of what I was looking for. I was looking for like a Ruger Mark IV 2245 target pistol when I bought this. And this gun caught my attention because it fit really well in the hand. It had a decent trigger, not like, I'll talk about the trigger more in a minute, and it was optics ready, and it seemed like a decent little trainer pistol. At that time, I actually don't remember if I was carrying the Springfield XDM Elite Compact. I think I bought this gun before I bought the Springfield. But it seemed like a cheap way to practice since at this time I had a fair hoard of 22 ammo on hand at that point. Little did I know that I would actually come to really like this gun, despite its few flaws, and we'll talk about those. Within the first 100 rounds from the pistol, the extractor decided it wanted to exit the stage instead of playing its part. Now, in spite of that extractor missing, the gun still ran flawlessly, and I probably fired close to 500 rounds through it before sending it back to be fixed. The gun was too new to the market at the time to be able to get parts to fix it, and the very early ones had a recall I think it was for the safety actually, and mine fell into that recall number, and so I had to send it back to FN. They wouldn't just send me an extractor for it because of the recall, and it took them like 12 weeks to get it back to me, which was a little bit disappointing. But I get it. It was a brand new gun, brand new to the market. The pistol's made in Germany. I'm sending it to sites in the U.S. to get fixed. They had to get parts, plus the recall. They were probably working on a bunch of these at the time. So I wasn't. It is what it is. They sent it back, and I've had zero issues with it since. Keep in mind that when I mentioned that missing extractor and it's still working fine, that there are auto-loading 22s out there that simply do not have an extractor, like the Beretta 21A Tomcat, and they work fine. And this gun worked fine. Like I said, I fired probably 500 rounds through it because it was a new pistol and I wanted to shoot it some. And I was hoping maybe I'd be able to get an aftermarket extractor somewhere and not have to send it off and get it fixed. Now, I forget who it is, Tandem Cross maybe. They make extractors and firing pins for these guns. At the time, that wasn't a thing. The gun was too new to the market, so I had to send it back. So despite the FN name, these guns are actually built in Germany by Umarex, and they're well known for their quality air guns. And they also build 22 pistols for several other manufacturers. Unlike this just being a rebranded Umarex, like the Colt 1911 pistols or 22s are, and that kind of stuff, this is actually designed by FN and just built by Umarex. This pistol has some really great features right out of the box, like it has fully ambidextrous controls. You guys on YouTube will be able to see that. There's the right side of the gun, fully ambidextrous controls, threaded barrel, comes with suppressor height sights, and it has an accessory rail and it's optics ready, right out of the box. And it comes with, it also comes with several mounting plates for optics. You don't have to go out and buy the optics plates. I think they came with like 4 of them right in the box. And if you guys can see, the optic plates have built-in sights on them. Pretty nice. When you buy the pistol, I should have brought the parts for it out here too, but I just didn't. It comes with a cover to hide the optics mount, and it's aluminum. Unlike the optics adapters are actually all plastic, but the cover that comes with it is aluminum, and it actually weighs 1.2 ounces to mimic the weight of a reflex sight to help minimize malfunctions if you put an optic on it. They kind of designed this with the intention of being an optics pistol, and then they made that weight the plate, the cover plate, weighted so that way it would match the weight of the optic. So I ran the gun for a while with the iron sights, and then I put this it's a Vortex Venom 6 MOA red dot sight on the pistol, and it's been very reliable both ways, with and without the optic, even with standard velocity ammo, and even subsonic. It actually runs pretty good with subsonic ammo too. I've never put a can on it, but just the way it sits, it runs pretty good with subsonics. Get this. I don't know why. Generally, I get like a little bit of tightness in my cigars about halfway. Yeah, kind of roll them a little bit, loosen them up. Some guys, they got like these little pokers and they'll poke down in there and open them up. I don't do that. I just kind of squish it and roll it in my fingers a little bit and get it loosened back up. It'll go. Now, I mentioned that there were some things that I would like to see different on this pistol. And the plastic sights on this pistol, they leave a lot to be desired, which is often the case with plastic sights. Glock puts plastic sights on their pistols, and they're usually get changed out. The aluminum optic plate cover has a removable dovetailed rear sight, and the front sight is dovetailed as well. However, from what I have seen online, there are no aftermarket sight sets for this pistol. At this time, I read up. They say the FN 509 sights won't work on them, so I don't know. From what I can see, nobody from what I've seen, even like on the rimfire pistol forums and that kind of stuff, people were saying there's not a sight set that'll fit on these. So that's a little bit of an issue to me. I'm hoping that the aftermarket will start to make some sights for these soon, but in the meantime, there's nothing. You're stuck with the factory plastic sights. And I mentioned before, the plastic optics adapters come with the built-in rear sights. The co-witness sights built in, and in the package, when you open up your adapter plate, they're all like this little plastic wrap thing. There's an extra front sight. There's a little bit taller front sight in there for use with these adapter plates, for your co-witness sights. And that's a good thing because my original front sight actually fell out and it's long gone, which is part of the reason I added an optic to this one. The taller front sight designed to be used with the optics mount plate has stayed tight, and the sights are really, they're good sights. They're usable through the optics plate through the optic. I actually shoot this pistol quite a bit with the optic turned off. If I'm just going to run out and shoot at a squirrel or something to turn insulation out from wherever, and they work really good. But I wish it had better sights. I wish there was somebody that made aftermarket sights for these. But it is what it is. Actually, when I lost the front sight, I knew that the optics mount came with the sights built in, and my plan was to just cut that sight off, put an optic on it, and forget about the front sight. And it wasn't until I opened up the optic plate, like, oh look, there's a front sight in here, so I went ahead and put it back on, and it's been fine since then. It stayed tight; it hasn't come out. But it was a little bit disappointing that I had lost the original front sight, and it was finger loose. And I've mentioned before too that up here in the cold, the plastic shrinks more than the metal, and they get loose in the cold. And I think it was wintertime when I lost that one. So yeah, it's that could be different. I wish that was different. So the pistol came with 2 magazines. It came with a 10-round, and it came with an extended 15-round magazine. And overall, it's proved to be very reliable over the last 2 years. It's as reliable as any other rimfire I've ever owned. However, unlike most polymer pistols and 9mm like the Glocks and stuff that can run pretty dry, this likes to be well oiled. Oh boy, now I just lost my... Where was I? There we are, well oiled. While it looks similar to several other FN models, it's really all of its own design. The closest thing would be the 509 series pistols. However, they are striker fired, while the FN 502 is hammer fired. It's close enough in size. It actually almost mimics the size of the FN 509 that it will fit in FN 509 tactical holsters, and you do need the tactical holsters because of the extended threaded barrel. So, speaking of hammer fired, while usually hammer fired guns have decent triggers, this gun does leave a little bit to be desired in my eye. The trigger it's very usable. It's about a 3-pound with fairly minimal take up. Go ahead and check it here. It's cleared. Because on YouTube we'll be able to see this. That's your take up right there. It's a little squishy. It's not like light when it hits a solid wall. It's a little squishy, but minimal. And then once you kind of squish into that wall, from there it's fairly crisp, little long, fairly crisp. It's still a plastic trigger, but it's fairly crisp. However, out of the box, it had a ton of over travel. You guys can see that again right now. Fairly short. Out of the box, it had a ton of over travel, and because of the over travel, it had a very long reset as well. It had about a quarter or 3/8 of an inch of over travel. You guys can see right now, I'm holding the trigger back up against the stop. Out of the box, that trigger actually almost bottomed out against the back of the trigger guard. And I waited a long time to see if somebody would come out with an aftermarket trigger for this pistol. But recently, I went ahead and added my own over travel stop to the back of the trigger. I'm trying to put it on the camera there. You guys can see that screw I added to the back of the trigger there. So what I did, I just removed the trigger group and I tapped the hole under the back of the trigger, and then I added the over travel stop. It could have been a little bit longer, but it's still way better than what it was. This removed about 3/4 of the over travel, resulting in a much quicker reset and overall a better feeling trigger. I like it a lot better now, and I noticed it being noticeably faster on the range if you're trying to shoot fairly quickly with it. Accuracy on the pistol is acceptable. Not the most accurate 22 pistol I've ever owned, but very serviceable. Like most 22 pistols, it's more accurate, or most 22s in general. It's more accurate with the standard velocity ammo, but you can tell the shooting that the slide runs a bit slower. It's actually pretty reliable, even with subsonic ammo. If kept clean and oiled with subsonics, I'll get like maybe one failure to like a failure to eject or a failure to pick up the next cartridge, like maybe every 3 magazines. Standard velocity is it's pretty reliable if kept clean and oiled. But it definitely runs better with high velocity ammo, CCI mini mags, that kind of stuff. It'll run really well with high velocity ammo. And then one of the other things I have noticed with the gun is that the cold slows it down. Again, probably because it likes to be well oiled, and the changes in the plastic and that kind of stuff. All guns run a little more difficult in the cold. This one's really noticeable, but it still runs fairly well with good ammo. Since it's mostly a ranged pistol, I'm fine with it. But I have taken the pistol out grouse hunting plenty of times, and it's taken its fair share of grouse while I'm out moose hunting or cutting firewood or whatever. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the pistol. The trigger could be a little better, but it's serviceable. The sights could be a little better, but they're serviceable if they stay where they're supposed to stay. You could pop them out and put a little drop of super glue underneath the plastic sights, slide them back in, so they less chance to come out. That's one of my main complaints with this gun is those plastic sights and no aftermarket to replace those. The Ambi controls, you can see a lot of guns like the Smith, looking at you, Springfield with the XD series, where the Ambi controls are just kind of extensions of the regular controls. If you can see on the right side of this pistol, it actually has the notch for the slide stop and all that. The ambidextrous controls on this pistol are very nice. It does have a thumb safety. So, like when I'm out carrying this gun, hunting with it, I actually carry it cocked and locked like you would in 1911 or empty chambered. But a lot of times, if I'm out hunting and that kind of stuff, I'll just carry it cocked and locked. But really nice, really good, solid ambidextrous controls on it, and they work really well. And best of all, the pistol feels like a real gun. Especially with I like my preference is this extended magazine that matches the grip contour of the gun pretty well. Gives me a full grip. But even with the 10 rounder, like the Glock 19, I can still get a grip on that. Pretty decent. But yeah, overall, it feels like a real gun. I like the gun. You can. Oh, now I got the magazine in it, but with the grip and rip, it functions like a real gun. I really like it. I like it a lot more than I thought I would than when I bought it. I would highly recommend this pistol as a trainer pistol for a new shooter, or even an experienced shooter. I haven't played with the Glock 44s or any of the other size 22s very much. I can't say much about them, but I really like this FN 502. As a matter of fact, I like it enough that I am debating getting a suppressor to put on it, and we'll have to see how that goes. I don't like the idea of giving Uncle Sam money for a tax stamp. I've had comments on here. You guys have sent me some emails asking me what I thought on this, that, and the other that would require tax stamps. And I don't play the game of of having things that I shouldn't have. I'm not playing that game. I'm a legal gun owner. As much as I think the laws are bullcrap, I'm going to follow the law. I also don't like the idea of giving Uncle Sam more money for a tax stamp. He gets enough of my money the way it is. But this gun, I'd really like to get like a nice, lightweight, short little suppressor for this thing. And I might do that this summer. We'll just have to kind of see how that goes. But yeah, overall, really like this pistol. Highly recommend it. Alright, so I had a few comments this week about upgrading the trigger in my Glock 19 for carry gun. And I'm not going to read them all, but I will address them real quick. I will say that this is the most amount of comment I've had on any particular episode, and it's all been about that trigger upgrade for a carry gun. Most of them were to the tone of that putting an aftermarket trigger in a carry gun is just opening myself up for legal trouble in the event that I ever have to shoot someone with it. Now, while I get that there are liberal lawyers out there and they'll try to nail you to the wall for shooting a bad guy, I can't find a single example where somebody was thrown in jail following a justified good shooting because of having a modified gun or even, hand-loaded ammo or anything. If I'm wrong, feel free to send me an email with the links to a news article or something, or some kind of evidence of this happening, but I'm just not finding it. I feel like this rumor was started by a particular well-known gun snob that I'm not going to name, but I think it's mostly crap. My dad didn't care for this guy's teachings 30 years ago either, and I think that he's the one that started this rumor. I think it's bullcrap. If I'm going to go for jail for shooting a guy after putting an aftermarket trigger in a Glock, what about all the guys carrying 1911s? Not only do they have better triggers, they're that 45 ACP is more powerful. Just flat out man stopper, So why aren't these guys going to jail for carrying 1911s? I just don't see it happening, especially where I am. But I could be wrong. And like I said, if you guys have actual documentation of this ever happening to somebody, send it to me. I'd love to see it. And I'll talk about it on the show. I've never found any documentation of that. I don't see it happening. Sure, there might be lawyers who have tried that, but I've never seen anybody actually get convicted for that. You shoot somebody, they're going to throw everything they can at you anyway. It doesn't matter what the shooting was. And that's why we have concealed carry insurance to help cover lawyer and legal fees in a self-defense shooting. Yeah, I just don't really see the issue with that one. Now, I can say that, yeah, for you guys that are, newer gun handlers, maybe having a lighter trigger could be a little bit of a safety issue. And it's definitely something to consider. If you're going to put that better trigger in your gun and you're going to carry it and you ever have to pull that gun, know what you're doing as you start to squeeze that trigger. But if you put your finger on the trigger, one of the things people were saying is like, well, if you point the gun at somebody, you could accidentally shoot them with a lighter trigger. I tell you what, right now, if your finger goes on that trigger, you should have already made up your mind that you're going to shoot this guy. If your finger's on the trigger should already be pulled. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Another message I got this week was from a fellow saying that he bought a leather holster and that he thought it fit the gun a little bit too tightly. I'm going to have to relight this cigar here in a minute. So, leather holsters are like leather boots, and they need broke in. This holster I have right here for you guys on YouTube was the first Simply Rugged holster that I ever bought. I've had this holster for about 7 years. And I got it when I got my Ruger Lightweight Commander 45. And when I got this gun and this holster, it was tight to the point where I had to use two hands to get it in there. Like I had to hold the holster and shoved the gun down into the holster. And after a couple of weeks of use, it loosened up to a nice snug fit. And as you guys can see, after 6 or 7 years of use, it's still great. It's still tight. And there was much of the time that this holster was my daily carry with this gun. You guys can look at the back. I've worn this holster enough that the black dye is worn off, and you're starting to see the tan leather underneath. I've put a lot of miles on this holster. You guys can, I don't know if you guys can be able to see it, but right here, it's all worn thin because I rode this holster down the highway at 40 miles an hour one time, and it protected the gun. That's why I've got these nice stag grips on this gun, because I had to replace the grips after riding this gun down the highway at 40 miles an hour. It tore the grips up, but the holster did a good job protecting the gun for the most part. So, let's see, where was that? But yeah, you guys can see that after all those years, all those miles, this holster still fits the gun nice and tight. I can hold the holster up like that. It still holds the gun snugly, just like it should. If you need to oil the holster, if you need to, you can oil the holster until it just won't take any more oil, and it will take a lot more oil than you think it will. And then just do what you got to do to get the gun fully seated in the holster. If you got to take the holster out and hold it in your hand and shove the gun down in and work the gun down into the holster, do what you got to do. And then strap it on and just wear it, and it will break in and it will fit the gun well. And that's what you want. You want the gun to be tight in the holster. That's a sign of quality. I bought some cheaper, we'll call it name brand, but some cheaper name brand leather holsters that fit the gun real nice when they're new, and then after they break in a little bit, they don't hold the gun tight anymore. You don't want that. You want that tight fit. That way, when you carry that holster will last you the rest of your life. Take good care of it. About once a year, I go over my leather holsters with some kind of leather treatment and waterproofing. Waterproofing agent, because I work outside and I get them wet and that kind of stuff. And a good leather holster is going to last you the rest of your life. But just like a good pair of leather boots, you're going to have to break it in. And it will break in, and it will fit the gun well. I'm going to go ahead and relight my cigar here real quick. So you guys see a lot of times, if I have to relight a cigar, this one, after it burned down a little bit, it kind of got a little uneven. Just snip it over and restart. Yep, now you got a nice fresh cigar to start with. Go ahead and take the wrapper off of it. Not really sure why I'm relighting it this far into the podcast since we're almost done, but we're going to go ahead and relight it. You guys on YouTube, this is all going to get cut out of the podcast version. You guys see, I don't hold the end of the cigar directly in the flame. That's not how you light a cigar. You're supposed to kind of hold it, toast the end, get the end warm, and then get it to go on its own. Anyway, got this thing relight. Let's go ahead and enjoy it. It relights well. A lot of times with cigars, if you relight them, you'll get kind of a burnt flavor. And I'm not getting that with this one. It relights. It tastes just as good as it did before it went out. It's still just a little too mild for me. It's a good cigar. I'd smoke it again, but little light for me. Just a little too mild. All right, everybody. That does it for this week. Be sure to go to YouTube and subscribe to the Shooter's Apprentice. I'm going to try to start doing some videos again for gear and gun reviews here and there, kind of like what I did with that Timony trigger. I really want to get, ideally I'd like to set the YouTube up and start producing good quality videos as well. But it's just a work in progress, just like the podcast is. Also follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and whatever other social media platforms you're on. Following the pages and channels helps to grow the show and open up more resources that I can use to produce an even better show. I get it going again. At the time of this recording, we are at 986 followers on Instagram. So really close to breaking that 1,000 mark goal that I set, early on when we first rebooted the podcast. Really working on that, and I'm hoping to make that 1,000 maybe this week. But anyway, as always, thanks to everybody for supporting the show. It means a lot to me that you guys take time out of your day to listen to my ramblings for an hour or so every week. I really enjoy doing this, and I enjoy being able to interact with you guys on social media and even emails as well. You guys want to send me emails, I try really hard to respond to every email, and I really enjoy doing the show, and I enjoy interacting with you guys. On that note, you can send any questions or comments to dansgunstuff@gmail.com, or feel free to message or comment on any of the social media pages. All that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get this one wrapped up. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next week. Until then, stay safe out there and don't shoot yourself in the foot.